Steve, first of all, Mo Diarmi obviously had to leave the game against Everton early. What's the prognosis of his injury?
Well, he's got a problem to his tendon in his knee, and it's been bothering him for the last 2-3 weeks. So he was having another scan yesterday, and I think the treatment will be done today on it. But we've just got to be patient with it. It's one of them ones where we've just got to be patient with it and just let it settle and stop the flare. And we hope that he's going to be involved over Christmas, but at the moment there's going to be at least 2-3 weeks, I would have thought, to just let it settle down and see if we can get him back fit again. That's
a big blow, isn't it? Coming as it does at this time of the year.
Well, that's the unfortunate thing, and the one thing I never want to do here is sit here and make excuses, but we're big players from the first game of the season. We've had Snodgrass and Jelavic and Dawson and now Diarmi, who were all playing particularly well at the time. And unfortunately, it is part and parcel of it, but you do need a little bit of luck when that's concerned. And of course, injury does play its part, but it's been a bit cruel to us over the last 2-3 months because the big players to the squad have all picked up these injuries, which obviously is a frustration.
On the flip side, would it be fair to say Shoni Aluko wouldn't have been on the field on Wednesday night had Mo's injury not occurred?
I thought it was an inspired substitution. So somebody said to me afterwards, yeah, he was injured. No, I was delighted for Shoni because he's another one. When we first arrived a couple of years ago, for me he was the outstanding player in the Championship. And he got to Christmas and unfortunately damaged his Achilles so badly that he's probably missed 18 months, certainly with all the rest of that season. And last year was sort of stop-start. And my experience with it, when you've had serious injuries and you've been out a year, and it can take you as long again to really, really get back to being that comfortable that you can, especially if you play like Shoni. It's all about movement and twisting and turning. And I'm delighted for him because he's worked extremely hard and stuck at it. And those signs, I pulled him before the game the other night and said to him he was very unlucky not to start because I thought he did very, very, very well at Old Trafford. And that's good signs for him, and let's hope that he can stay injury free. I know he's looking forward to the challenge of playing week in and week out in the Premier League because, again, as we're saying about injuries, he's been blighted with it. So let's hope he has a bit of luck because he is a very, very talented player and one where you enjoy watching because he's a little bit different. His skill for Jelavic's chance in the second half was, something only Shoni can do.
In the context of the run that Hull City have been on in the recent weeks, and obviously in the context of what's to come, how big a goal is that?
Well, you hope it just gives everybody a little bit of a lift. There was, with the first half, you could just see we were a team who were trying their best, but a little bit short on confidence, and that happens in this league. And we're not alone. The bottom 10 teams are separated by 3-4 points. If you look at them, we've all won 2 or 3 games, we've all drawn 4 or 5. That's how difficult it is. There's fine margins. So we hope that over the next 6-7 weeks especially, I think we've got something like 7 games in 5 weeks, which is a big tall order, and will test you to the limit. We hope that we can put some results together which will put us in a good position. And I've said repeatedly, I think the squad is stronger and better than it was last year. And certainly with the 4 or 5 injuries, if that happened last year, then we, for me, would have been in serious trouble, and so we need a bit of luck as far as that's concerned, but I'm still confident that we're on the right tracks.
West Brom, of course, come here tomorrow, a team that have endured a pretty torrid time, a similar time to what you've had in the last weeks.
Well, there again, I could give you Aston Villa, I could give you Crystal Palace, I could give you West Brom, I could give you Leicester, I could give you QPR. Have done really well over the last few weeks, and so has Burnley. And but before that, I found it difficult. And that's what this league is. And, I've said repeatedly that to really, really do well in the division, can you go and beat the teams that are going to be in and around you? And we did that successfully well last year. So West Brom will think exactly the same thing as what we do. So it should be a big game, a big result is required. And let's hope the point the other day can give us that confidence which every team needs to go and put a couple of results together, because I'm convinced we can do it.
I'm sure this is a question that was asked to Alan yesterday as well, but given the form they're in, if you can jump on them early, is this an opportunity for it?
Yes, but I'm sure Alan is going to say exactly the same thing. He's going to say exactly what I'm saying. And as I've said, in my experience with it, the reason why the teams are in the bottom half of the division is we find the division difficult. There's no other word for it. It's a difficult, tough division to play in. And when you play against the teams, as I said, around you, can you go and get a result? Because it's huge if you can.
And certainly in the context you say the bottom half of the table, 3 points catapults you up towards mid-table.
Well, that's what we're all looking for. We hope that we can put back-to-back results together? Can you go on a little run? Can you go 3-4? Burnley, to be fair to them, a month ago were looked to cut adrift, and all of a sudden they've not been beaten in 4. They've won a couple and drew a couple, so that's what we're all aiming to do. Let's hope it's a start for us. We've got some big games coming up against the teams in and around us, especially over Christmas. Away from home, we always knew the first half of the season for us was going to be pretty brutal. I mean, we've been to all the top teams, with Chelsea coming on the horizon. So once we get over that, then we've been to all the big stadiums in this division, near enough. So we knew it was going to be a tough start, especially away from home. But as we've proved, we've now got 2-3 results against the big teams in this division. So I'm still pretty confident that we can do okay.
On an aside for tomorrow as well, obviously Hull is trying to increase its identity within the community. I believe £1 from every ticket sale goes to the Teenage Cancer Trust tomorrow.
Terrific gesture, and that's the one thing from me chairman, for the people who don't know, and from outside the area, the generosity he gives to hospitals, to I was at a function with him in London a couple of weeks ago where he sponsored an event which raised millions for underprivileged children with heart defects, and it's another part of him really that he wants to be involved in. And the reason why he bought the football club originally was he didn't want this city without a football club, and really without him he gave it to the community. He's not a real big football fan. I think he is now. Well, he should be after the money's put in. But I think it just shows from him too that he wants to give something back. And for his sterling works around the charities, and I've seen it and been privileged to see it. And it's another gesture which goes down well with the community, I'm sure.
And just finally from me, we saw from the FA yesterday they published this document, the DNA of English football. I remember about 14, 15 years ago, Howard Wilkinson produced a similar sort of document. What do you make of it?
Well, it'd be interesting to read it in full. I've seen obviously the bullet points, and we are caught. We've got the biggest and best league in the world. Everybody wants to see the Premier League, whether you go to America or the Far East or whatever. But we've all spent millions as well, especially the big clubs, on academies. And it is fair to say that we're not quite producing the players that we'd like to produce. Now, it is a double-edged sword, because maybe 15 years ago we would give the young British talent a go. But it's going to be very, very difficult now, especially if you're a top club. For any youngster trying to break into it is very difficult. So I think there's something needed to be done. It'll be interesting to see what they've come up with and find their findings of it, because there's no doubt that we have to start finding a new Paul Gascoigne, if you like, or a new Brian Robson. Or we've got to start producing, because we are spending a lot of money. We're just committing ourselves to improve the academy on the hope that we can bring a young player through. We haven't managed to do it in the top flight for a lot of years. So we need to improve and see if we can bring a young one. And I think that goes for all the country, where we need to see Scotland and Ireland seem to have developed over the last few years. So we need to go and improve it. And if this helps, then let's hope it can.
Can I just pick you up on that? Because Dan Ashworth, of course, who is really one of the people that's written the report, is saying that he has spoken to the Premier League clubs to get them on board. He accepts that they can only deal with things that happen, with the underage teams at St George's Park. But what liaison has he had, for example, with you?
Well, the problem that we found here, and obviously I can talk to you now because we're locally, but we're a Category 3 and we're a Premier League club. So therein lies a problem too. No disrespect, but a Premier League club like ours shouldn't be playing against no disrespect and take this the right way, against a Scunthorpe and a Grimsby and playing against lower division teams. We have to up the ante from ourselves to go and play against better opposition, because the players that we're playing against at the moment, they aren't getting pushed, or they're getting pushed, but they don't see the standards of what the real Premier League teams do. So I'm sure he's asked around all the Premier League teams who are Category A, Dan, and I've known Dan a long time, but you know, we've got to improve us as a club, and we've tried to do that. We've tried to implement that. We're just early with it. We've only been going with the new regime 6 to 8 months. We've now got a new venue. We've now got a new site. We've now got better facilities, which we're sharing with the local university college. So I think it's very important that there's nothing quite like, and I've been fortunate in management that I've been able to bring a few kids through. Jordan Henderson at Sunderland. You know, they invested a lot of money up at Sunderland, and when you see it bearing its fruits, like you get a young Jordan Henderson, we sold him for big money to Liverpool, but it's absolutely worth it, and that's what we've got to try and improve here if we possibly can.
It seems to be one of your babies. I mean, everybody, I think, outside of this room see you just as the whole city manager, but you've got a very hands-on role, haven't you, with this academy? You want to drive this forward, don't you?
Well, I suppose I've seen the benefits of it. You know, I was fortunate to see 6 players come through with one of the biggest clubs in the world, all come through together and play. I don't think that'll ever happen again, I have to tell you that. And the one thing about managers now, though, and young managers in particular, is time. And this is what you mean about time. If you're really, really genuine and passionate about what you do, then it's important that your youth team and your under 18s and your under 21 starts to thrive. And whatever's happened in the past here, maybe we haven't had the right investment, maybe we haven't been down the right road that we should have been doing, and to be fair, the owners were agreeing with me that we have to try and improve and bring through 2 or 3 players who are born and bred in Hull, and how great that would be to see them play. And if you are fortunate to get it through, then it has huge benefits for everybody concerned, because everybody likes to see the local lad come through, and we haven't had enough of them, certainly here, and over the look of the Premier League too, there's not enough coming through the way it should be.
And I guess that, as you say, it's only early days, 6-7 months into the process, but are you happy with the progress?
Well, we're making improvement. We hope that we're going to go to Category 2. We hope that we're going to have all the facilities in place to be, I think we're ordered it to February, March time, where we're looking for the audit. We've still got to get an indoor dome, which is going to go ahead. We're just now getting the venue right for that. So things are improving, and it's important that they do improve. And I might not be here to see the bear of the fruits, but at least then I know that what we've tried to implement and tried to put through will be there for everybody to see.
Steve, just another one on tomorrow. You're running the changes a bit at Everton. Does that give you a bit of a selection headache for tomorrow?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to bring in people like Rossinia, Myler, Quinn. All of them have been with me for a good 2.5 years, and I basically knew that what I knew I was going to get. And when you're up against it, you seem to try and go to the basics if you can. And we needed to go and grind out a result because of the confidence was unfortunately low with a few players, which happens when you keep getting beat. So important that we rely on people like them, who've been huge to us over the last couple of years, and when you really need to rely on them, they've come up trumps again. So they deserve, I'm sure, to stay in the team. It would be unwise of me to think any different, and they deserve to be playing on Saturday, because it's not easy going to Goodison and give us a result which everybody needed.
David Myler got a knee problem, didn't he, at the end of the Everton game?
Yeah, it's a kick. It's a kick more than anything other than that. So I would expect him to be okay. He's sore, but I would expect him to be okay.
Could you just estimate us on Stephen Quinn's contract?
Stephen Quinn is his agent was talking to the powers that be probably a week ago. I hope that by this time next week that we can announce that he's signed his new deal. He's the first one of a few who've been with me, many names I've just mentioned, who need rewarding, and certainly Stephen Quinn comes into that bracket. You know, I've got a few fringe players like Myler and Rossinia and Alex and Quinny, who over the last 2.5 years have played 200 games between them. So it's vitally important that they might not be the marquee signings, or is vitally important to me. They're just as important to me as the big name signings that we brought into the club.
Particularly Quinn in particular, you feel he has a big future ahead?
Well, I can tell by your accent it's particularly Quinny, because he's been terrific, and if I've ever spent a better 50 grand or whatever it was at the initial time, I know it had build-ups after that, but he's everything which I enjoy about a football player. He's, for the size of him, I mean, he wanted to have a fight with Modiami on Friday, on the day before the game. You know, his tensions were high a bit, and he picked on the little one in Modiami. So typical Quinny, and he's been terrific, as I said, since we signed him from Sheffield.